Hello and welcome to another Demon 212 PC review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at American McGee's Alice because the sequel's coming out soon and this is obviously coming out of consoles now, getting ported to it, and if you haven't got a console that can play it, you can still pick up the old one because this runs perfectly on Windows 7. You don't even have to patch it or anything. So, if you've never played it before, it's a third-person action-adventure platformer, shootery type thing. There's elements of all sorts, and I will mention them. Settings are actually something you need to be wary about, because when trying to set the game up, the amount of times I lost the picture because it wasn't fitting my resolution, and in the end I had to use a helpful website to get it running widescreen, and everything's been fine. But you can customise that, you can customise your controls and things, so let's just exit out and load a save file up. So, the whole point of the game, for those who haven't played it, this isn't Alice in Wonderland as you know it. Firstly, it's actually a sequel to Alice in Wonderland, and it's done for adults in mind, because the original story always was for adults. It's just then Disney got their hands on it, and then a load of other people made it for kids as well. So the whole point is, the story starts, Alice is returned from Wonderland, she's back home, and a fire starts. Her parents burn alive in the fire, you can already tell this is adult, and she then gets locked in an insane asylum. She then mentally goes back to Wonderland to try and cope with the events, and the whole point is it's a psyche game, so by beating Wonderland, by correcting the order of things, because Wonderland's now a dark and twisted place, because your own grief won't let it be a nice happy place, because you don't deserve it, because you blame the fire on yourself. By going through it and correcting all the wrongs, you eventually come to terms with what happened, and you, well, go sane again. It's not the most complex story, but it's done well, and there's things that I can't mention about the game, because that's pretty much the start and finish, but I've not mentioned all the other stuff in between that you really don't want me to spoil. It's done incredibly well. The Cheshire Cat, for one, is excellent, and you can thankfully bring him up to get him to just basically say things and that. He's supposed to be helpful, but he never really tells you anything useful. The voice acting in the game is fantastic, and the story's great as well. There's also more story in the form of the instruction book, because if you manage to get the proper copy of Alice, that one, then the instruction book isn't an instruction book, it's a storybook, and it tells you all the things that are going through as you're playing them, and it tells you in more detail and the way that it's happening to the doctors and things like that. It's done incredibly well, actually. You've then got a whole host of weaponry at your arsenal as well, which is just insane stuff, so I'll just load that back up again then. Because you've got things like dice, which can summon enemies to fight for you, but if there's no enemies, they'll fight you. You can play a game of jacks, where the jacks actually fly out and cut the enemies to pieces. You can freeze them or build yourself an ice barrier. You can throw a mad jack in the box, which sets on fire and explodes. You can use a billy club to beat your enemies to death. You can play 52 card pickup by throwing cards into people. You've got a butcher's knife. The whole element of the game is excellent. I love everything about it. I don't think there's a fault with it, and think it's the type of thing that if you can get past the fact that Alice in Wonderland is now for kids, and remember that this was for adults to begin with, you'll have a whole heap of fun with it, because as well as there being the great story and, as I say, the great weaponry, the gameplay as a whole is done excellent. The platforming sections are brilliant, and I'll just try and load one up now to show it off. So you've got sections like this where you're going around a clockwork type thing with all the gears and cogs, and you've got to make sure not to misplace your footing or you mistime your jumping, because you'll just fall to your death. And the whole game's design's done excellently. There's not a single point in the game where I thought, how the hell could they have messed this up so badly? Instead, it's the type of thing that I'm thinking, how is this game not voted one of the greatest games of all time? Quite often, because I'd never even heard people talk about it for years. I found it accidentally after seeing a review on an old show from about 11 years ago, and thought, that looks interesting, and I'm glad I got it. It's one of the best purchases I've ever bought. As well as the weapons, there's also a few power-ups that you can get where you basically go psycho-insane, like in Doom's Berserk mode, and you're extremely powerful, or you can jump higher or turn invisible, and they're alright. The Psycho Insane Rage one's pretty useful, but you don't get it all that often. I only actually got the invisibility one once, and I got the jumping one twice, and it actually screwed me over more than helping me, because you're so sensitive when you jump, and you jump so high that you're not used to it, and then you fall to your death more often. The boss fights in the game are excellent, and I'll try and show one off that doesn't so much spoil the gameplay a lot, but there's nothing really I can say other than that if you know anything about Alice in Wonderland, you'll recognise a lot of the locations, you'll recognise a lot of the characters and enemies, because they're all pretty much there. So I'll just go into that boss then. So this is the Mad Hatter, as you might guess by the hat really. And the boss fights are done as you'd expect really. They've each got weaknesses. It tends to be a case of just pummeling them with as much ammo as you can whilst avoiding their unique attacks, which can really, really hurt you. Thankfully there's a quick save function which comes in quite handy. And well, that's pretty much all I can say about the game. If you like the sort of game and you like the sort of genre, it's excellent. It's got 38 levels. It took me some hefty gameplay to get through it. I was playing it for days on end before I finally beat it, and I was enjoying every minute of it. I got totally hooked by it, and I can't wait to see the second one. One thing I should probably mention, because I've just noticed they're not on the screen. This is again another problem with trying to get the resolution right for the TV that I'm projecting on. Normally there would be a bar on the left and a bar on the right, which one's red and one's blue, and they show your energy and your magic. So it's not a guessing case. You don't have to hope that you're not about to die or anything. That is just again a problem with trying to get the resolution right for the TV. They are there, they're just standard bars really, and they're useful if you have them. I suppose it's stupid to say because you wouldn't expect not to have them, but by not having them here I've not realised when I've been running out of magic during the vid. I'll shut up for a little bit of the music because I think the score's done amazingly well. It's actually by a guy from the 9 Inch Nails as well, and while I'm not a fan of the band, I'm a huge fan of the music score on this. So there we go then. That's been the review. I hope you found it helpful. I don't score the games because that's based purely on opinion, so instead I'll leave you to make your own mind up. So thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions about the game that I didn't answer in the vid or that hasn't been answered in the comments, then feel free to ask and I'll help if I can. Also, if you did find it helpful, don't forget to check out my channel because there's plenty more like this up there, and don't forget to subscribe because there'll be plenty more to come as well. So until next time, this has been Demon212, signing off.